Thank you for joining us on the Radio with a Difference. When money is withdrawn from the Natural Resource Fund to support the government's budgetary agenda, who or what committee is empowered to determine its use? Which committee is responsible for outlining what national priorities it must be spent on? A perusal of Guyana's Natural Resource Fund Act shows that the Board of Directors, the Investment Committee, or even the Public Accountability and Oversight Committee is not vested with that role. With such a loophole, the government has free rein to swoop in and have full control. With a majority lead in Parliament, it also has no worry about final approval for spending. And as added sweetener, there are no provisions to compel the government to report what specifically the oil money is being spent on. The first demonstration of this occurred in February 2022 when the House approved $607.6 million to be withdrawn to support the administration's budgetary measures. We previously reported that the first totaling $200 million of the $607 million was withdrawn on May 10, 2022. The second withdrawal of $200 million was done on July 13, 2022. In other news, the parliamentary opposition is contemplating action against the government for what they believe is the illegal funding of the pipeline in the $2 billion Wales gas to energy project directly from the profits the country earns from the development of its offshore oil and gas resources. Guyana has agreed to let ExxonMobil construct a pipeline that will capture associated gas from the Liza subsea fields and transport it to an offshore energy facility that will be constructed at the Wales for the production of, among other things, dry gas to meet quotas necessary for power here. The government has proposed the pipeline will be funded from cost oil. Cost oil is all sums deducted by ExxonMobil and partners for the development of the local oil and gas sector. Vice President Barrett Jagdeo had said that the Stabroek block operator, Exxon affiliate Esso, will co-own the intended gas pipeline since a piece of infrastructure will be paid for out of cost oil. This will result in a 50-50 ownership between the operator and Guyana until it is handed over to the government in 2026, the VP had explained. Economist and youth advisor to the opposition leader Elson Lowe has stated, however, that because the government has not released the agreement it has with Exxon regarding the transporting of the gas, the opposition is unable to say exactly the terms by which the project is being funded. In other news, the Africa Center for Energy Policy, a non-profit energy think tank working with technical partners around the world, produced an investigative report on Ghana, which shows that it lost over $882 million on 14 petroleum contracts since regulator failed to be vigilant. In its report, ACEP reminded that after the commercial discovery of oil in 2007, Ghana was projected to rise as a key player in Africa's oil and gas industry. The country had signed 16 petroleum agreements with multinational oil companies for the purpose of exploration and production of petroleum. Despite the number of available active contracts inked in 2007, ACEP found that the country's hydrocarbon potential was seriously underexplored, partially because not all companies are performing in accordance with the minimum contractual obligations in the PSA. Such a state of affairs had significant implications for Ghana's expected revenues inflows and even deprived the state of much-needed resources. Get the full details in today's Kaieteur News. And moving on, the Environmental Protection Agency has returned to its own method of handling business just weeks after the court handed down a ruling in which it explicitly stated the factors that must be included in its reason for waiving an environmental impact assessment. Guyana's High Court on December 16th last ruled that the country's main regulatory body for the petroleum sector, the EPA, breached the law when it issued a permit to Schlumberger Guyana Incorporated to construct a radioactive storage facility without conducting an environmental impact assessment first. In its decision to grant an exemption to Schlumberger Guyana Incorporated for the radioactive facility, Justice Haranan said that the notice did not give reason as to the determination that the project will have no significant impact on the surrounding environs or neighborhood neighboring residential communities. He was keen to note that these considerations are important in giving effect to the intention of notice. But while the court only days ago gave the EPA a clear definition of the reasons that must be included in the determination of granting an exemption of an impact study, the regulator has issued yet another waiver on its own grounds. We tell you now that economist and transparency advocate Raman Gaskin is convinced that Guyanese must act now to stop the sketchy U.S. multi-billion-dollar Wales project lest they wish to be left footing the bill of another failed government project. The economist, who once served as advisor to former President Chetty Jagan, believes that without the appropriate updated studies, citizens cannot just take the government's word that the 2 billion Wales project will reduce the country's electricity bill by half. He said that promises of viable, transformative projects have been made before, and in the end, citizens end up paying loans for projects that brought little to no value. Gaskin said that the government refuses to provide an update study on the project's viability because it will not reduce electricity costs. Gaskin said that based on his assessment, to invest that massive sum of money into gas-to-energy project, electricity rates would be more than double to honor the debt. And moving on, Kaieteur News publisher Glenn Lal is calling on the People's Progressive Party Civic Administration to make public 2 reports which were done by foreign consultants following their review of ExxonMobil's $9 billion US Payara and $10 billion US Yellowtail project in the Stabroek Block. Lal said these reports, which are done by Bayphase Limited and Canadian lawyer Alison Redford, should be made public so that citizens can judge for themselves if the country received value for money, as well as determine if the state's interests were properly represented. Lal said citizens ought not to forget that Bayphase is Exxon's client, while Redford is not known for having any track record in reviewing project plans that are of such magnitude. Furthermore, Lal said that these consultancies are paid for using a portion of a $20 million US World Bank loan, which all Guyanese will have to repay with interest. Like Lal, all the industry stakeholders have expressed grave concern about Guyana's use of Alison Redford. She was used not once but twice for the review of ExxonMobil's Payara and Yellowtail field development plans. Stakeholders were keen to note that both projects will cost Guyana a whopping $19 billion US, given the fact that Redford has no well-known track record of being a defender of states on field development plans. Industry expert cannot comprehend why she was selected for such an important job. And meanwhile, a Berbice farmer busted on Friday with over 2,000 grams of ganja at the police roadblock at Ituni Region 10, told ranks that it was for a quote-unquote fine hustle because times are hard. The farmer has been identified as a 58-year-old Captain Joseph Alicock of Upper Berbice River. According to a police press statement, Alicock was among 3 passengers in a car when ranks had searched the car at a roadblock at around 18 hours 25 on Friday. When searched, police found a bulky plastic bag stashed in his crotch, along with four others among cassava inside his haversack. Inside the bag, said the police, were leaves, seeds, and stems suspected to be cannabis. And finally, at this time, like many who work in the interior location of Guyana, a 45-year-old logger of Riverstung San Region 2 was eager to get home for Christmas, but he showed up at his house at Christmas Eve. It was empty. His wife, children, car, some of his furniture, and even the chickens and ducks his family were rearing had all disappeared. The logger, identified only as Kawal, lodged a report at the Suddy police station and has been trying to locate his family and his car since then. Kawal said that he learned his wife had moved out, but he really needs his car back and is worried about his children. He explained that he and his wife had a dispute over her drinking habit and frequent partying with a friend. However, Kawal said they reconciled before he left home for work early December. Now that's the news to the moment.
And that's the news at the moment. Remember to get the full details of these stories, pick up a copy of the Kaieteur News. And don't forget, you can catch us on the MyTuner app as well as the Radio Garden app. You can also keep up to date by liking our Facebook page at Kaieteur Radio and subscribing to our YouTube channel, Kaieteur Radio Livestream. Oh, also catch our stream at www.kaieteurnewsonline.com/radio. Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of